this is what hell is like.
If it is,
we're back, and one of us, we always designate somebody to sort of lead the beginning of the
barrage of questions.
The barrage of questions. Oh, we interview.
interrogation.
And after that, as you can see, it all goes to hell. So it's up to you, Mr. Kruger.
Thank you. Our guest is Mary Logue, one of our favorite authors.
Thank you.
Mary, you have created a veritable potpourri, literary potpourri in your time. You have 8 crime novels to your credit, 6 in the Claire Watkins series, which began with Blood Country in 1999.
Sounds right.
And the most recent title in that is Maiden Rock, which has been nominated for the Minnesota Book Award.
And I'm in good company with you.
Well, thank you, thank you. Well, that series has garnered you another nomination and also the Minnesota Book Award itself, so it's done quite well for you.
I've been really happy with it, thank you.
You also write with your partner Pete Hauptman the Bloodwater Mystery series, which is for young adults. And that's garnered an Edgar nomination.
Which was very fun.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
One of these
Had
days
to have a big fancy dress for
Oh.
that.
I remember too.
Did Pete wear a tux?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Does he own a tux?
Yeah.
Oh, he actually
We really get to the nitty gritty here.
Yeah, there we go.
the important stuff.
Yeah.
You are also the author of a number of other young adult novels, including Dancing with an Alien, which received just an enormous number of accolades and awards when it came out, including the American Library Association's Best Book for Young Adults. What a thrill that must have been.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In
Heavy
addition,
duty author here.
well, in addition, she's a poet and memoirist,
Yes.
a writer of nonfiction, and as if that's not enough, you also teach writing in a number of venues, universities and literary centers, such as the Loft Literary Center
We know
in
that, don't we?
Minneapolis. We know that well because that was my first introduction to you, is
right.
when I took a class there, and that's where I met this moron. We both took that same class. As fledgling would-be writers, we took your class, and what do you know? It worked.
Well, and it was a fun class.
It was a very
we had a
enjoyable
good
class.
time. Yeah.
Well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty here.
Okay.
You set your novels in the fictional Fort St. Antoine, which is an area that's very familiar to the upper Midwest folks. Could you talk a little bit about that setting,
Yeah.
its importance to you personally and to your work?
It's actually Lake Pepin, Fort St. Antoine. What I love about the little town that my main character lives in is it's actually a real old French fort that was built, but they can't find it anymore. So they've lost Fort St. Antoine, and
This must have been a government move.
it's supposed to be on Lake Pepin. So I love this idea that I've created a fictional town that kind of has this odd link with reality and yet doesn't. And my main character is Claire Watkins, who has moved down from the Twin Cities where she was a cop and trying to find a more peaceful, bucolic life, coming down to the beautiful bluff country of the Wisconsin-Minnesota border there on the Mississippi. And she's a deputy sheriff for Pepin County, and many things happen.
Well, you use a lot of real locations,
Yes.
real things from that area in your work. What's the reaction of the folks down there to that?
Well, you know, it's so funny because when my first book came out, I thought, I'm getting out of Dodge. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know what they would think of what I had done, so I actually went to Tucson for about 6 months, and because I knew that you know within 6 months another calamity would have come to overcome what I had done. But actually, I have to say it's been great. In fact, Pepin County this year has, for their sesquicentennial, has chosen Bone Harvest, one of my books, as one of the county reads,
Congratulations.
which will be really, really fun, really fun. So, and the sheriff and I have donuts and coffee together. So. And I was struck by something you said about writing to a title. I haven't tended to do that, but the next Maiden Rock, I did that, and then my next book, which is called Point No Point, which is a real, again, a real setting on Lake Pepin, and that name I loved it. It's just such a...
Well, your titles are so evocative.
Yeah.
Blood Country, Dark Coulee, Maiden Rock.
You know, that's interesting because somebody was saying that writers of series get darker from time to time, and I thought that Maiden Rock was easily one of the darkest of the really.
I would agree with you.
That's,
yeah. You know, it was
but
interesting because
wonderful book.
it's a book that deals with the methamphetamine situation, and I really have to say that I felt like I could not write. I continue to write a series without addressing that issue on some level. In
Because
rural,
it's small town, yeah.
in rural Wisconsin, Minnesota, unfortunately, we just know that that is an issue. And to show that it doesn't just affect, you know, people that by the wayside, but people, these are neighbors, these are people we love. And I guess that's all you really have in a rural community is neighbors and people you love, so.
Here's a question that I want to get in before
Okay.
our time is finished. You've written a lot of books. Do you have a favorite?
You know, I know that people usually say the one I'm working on, but I'm not going to say that. I actually do think in some ways in my mystery series, I think my poetry books are maybe really my very favorite. But Bone Harvest, I do think, is one of my favorites. Just, it has an old mystery. Claire has to solve a mystery that's 50 years old in order to figure out what's happening in present time. And that resonance between the two time periods, I just love that.
It has that wonderful, intriguing thing with the bone going through it too. Oh, creepy. Well, you were the one, in fact, who brought up your poetry. Your use of language in your stories is so clearly poetic. Can you talk about how your poetry influences your prose?
You know, I think you're pointing one of the ways I see in images. I mean, I started writing poetry first, and so I think we all create worlds, and we're trying to give them to the reader by giving them the images that make up that world. And so I do use a kind of metaphoric image. I have to say that my mystery writing has also influenced my poetry, interestingly enough. I do a twist. I mean, I don't think I'm not unique in that, but at the end of a poem, you think you know where you're headed, and I twist it at the end, and you're headed in a slightly different direction, which I think is a very crime mystery technique that we love to just slightly skew the reader at the end.
One of your poetry books has one of the best, I think, mystery titles ever.
Oh, yes.
Discriminating Evidence.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, that's sure.
Isn't that a great title?
Isn't, yeah.
Never really
It was
thought
a
of it
friend
that
of mine,
way,
a jazz singer, who she did malapropisms or whatever you say,
Close.
like Gracie Allen. Yeah, sorry. And one night she just out of the blue said, well, yeah, discriminating evidence. And I nabbed that
That's
one.
perfect, yeah.
Well, you know what?
It's that time, isn't it?
Tempest's time is
Thank
gone.
you, guys.
Thank
So
you,
much
Mary.
fun.
Thank you for coming.
We'll do this again sometime
good.
because we have lots of other
To
things
be
to talk
continued.
about. We're going to take a short break. And what did I want to say? Oh, yes, if you have questions for Mary or any of us, you can reach Mary. We'll pass them along, and we'll give you an email address at the end, or you can write to us. You can call us on the phone if you can find us. But right now, we're going to take a little break. Well, we're back. Now we're going to talk about one of the great icons of the mystery field, and who better to lead a discussion, raise questions that we will argue with, right, about than our award-winning author, Mr. Kruger here.
Is that because I'm also an icon in the
That's
field?
because you're also an icon.
Oh, thank you so much, Carl.
Yes.
During the course of the programs that we're going to be doing, we've determined that we're going to occasionally talk about books.
And movies.
And movies.
I would like to.
That's right.
Yeah.
And sometimes these are going to be contemporary, current productions, and sometimes they're going to be classics. And
And not only mystery or crime fiction, because we all are interested in read lots of other stuff
Oh, sure.
and talk about it. So, excuse me for
So yes, as we expand our repertoire, it will expand enough